When I was 10 years old, I joined Scouts Canada as a Cub Scout. Now, right away, I made a bunch of new friends and we did a lot of fun things. We did service in our community, but we also went on these amazing outdoor adventure trips. Like I remember the first time I camped outdoors in a lean-to that I had built in the middle of an Alberta winter. That's an experience if you haven't done that. We did a lot of cool stuff like that. We also did bottle drives for raising money for different initiatives in the community and doing community service to earn badges. It was a lot of fun. It was fun like being on a team like I was in hockey and in soccer, and I really enjoyed it. And, you know, as I think back about that time, the things that we were doing as young people were very important for our community. We made a very important positive contribution. But it also worked back the other way in helping set out sort of a trajectory that I would follow for the rest of my life. I've been involved in community service ever since, a lot of different organizations. It makes me feel so good to contribute in my community, but I have to admit, I probably have more fun than it is effort. Now, in just a couple of weeks, I'm going to be celebrating my 6th year as a Rotarian, as a member of the Rotary International organization, which is really one of the powerhouse service organizations of the world. There are 1.3 million people. Just imagine the collective power when all Rotarians get moving in the same direction, and they do this often. They've made some amazing advances in the world, not the least of which might be almost having us completed the eradication of polio worldwide. It's an amazing group. And in 2018, I had the privilege of serving as my club's president. And at the time, I made a 2-minute video of what it meant to me to be a Rotarian and what my hopes were for our Salmon Arm Daybreak Rotary Club during that year. And so what was there 2 years ago, I was just watching this. It still holds today for me, for sure. In fact, let's have a look at that video. You know that amazing feeling you get when you achieve what you set out to do. It's empowering and deeply fulfilling, isn't it? And when you put your energy, passion, and enthusiasm in motion and realize that what you're doing has made a positive difference in someone else's day, that good feeling gets multiplied. And when you and a group of friends get together on an idea and create something so much greater than you could have accomplished on your own, that camaraderie, pride, and feeling of accomplishment, it makes us feel so good. To me, that's what Rotary is. As a Rotarian, I get those deeply rewarding feelings every day. As a Rotarian, I'm part of a big group of friends with a unique opportunity to transform lives. I'm part of a global movement of people with the talent and energy to change the world. Through our Daybreak Rotary Club, I get to enjoy the deep rewards of working with friends for real, meaningful, and lasting impact in our community and around the world. Still, success doesn't just happen. In order to make the most of this opportunity, we need to be coordinated and work together towards common goals. So in the last year, the Salmon Arm Daybreak Rotary Club developed a strategic plan to set our course for the next 5 years. We aim to meet local priorities while contributing to Rotary International's global direction. Our club vision is to be actively engaged and visible in our community as we deliver a wide range of needed community, youth, and international service projects. We'll do it within a spirit of collaboration, personal development, fellowship, and integrity in our business, professional, personal, and Rotary lives. Our key priorities are club member engagement, impactful community service, and creating opportunities for tomorrow's leaders, our youth. This year ahead will be one of action, facing today's challenges head on with courage, optimism, and creativity. As this year's club president, I am dedicated to inspiring our members to reach our collective potential. to inspire new relationships that will break down barriers and unite the people of our community, and to inspire all of us to make choices grounded in sustainability so that the good we do now lasts for generations to come. Oh, that's funny to watch. The lobster hat there. Lobster Fest is our big fundraiser for the year, and so that's what that was all about. So one of the things that really jumps out at me in this is empowering tomorrow's leaders. And you see, actually have Sarika has joined us here, welcoming everybody together. And Sarika is our assistant producer of CFX, The Connection of Things. And she's going to be helping me to schedule guests from that cohort of future leaders. So we're going to have a lot more future leaders joining us on the show in the future. So thanks a lot, Sarika. Really appreciate the help there. Want to mention or just remind people that this is a live stream. And we live stream from Secwepemcúlecw, which is in the traditional and unceded territory of the Secwepemc Nation in southern British Columbia, Canada. Now, a couple of weeks ago on our show, Kathy Porter and I started a conversation about the cumulative effects of colonization in Canada and what that means. And how we how we continue on this pathway to reconciliation. And back in November, I got an email from one of my favorite Rotary friends, Mario Lane Lloyd, who actually is going to be the District 5060 governor in 2023-24. She's an awesome person. Anyway, she emailed me and said, hey, are you curious about how you and your club can participate in the reconciliation process outlined in the Truth and Reconciliation Report for Canada? Well, I am interested. So I followed up by attending a presentation that was given by Barb Penner of the Kelowna Sunrise Rotary Club. And in that presentation, I learned about an organization called HIP. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, here he goes again, tragically HIP. It's not that. But the irony of that is definitely not lost on me. Actually, HIP is an acronym for Honoring Indigenous People. And it's a Canadian organization with Rotarians and Indigenous peoples from Canada, the USA, and Australia, and it's growing. It's independent from Rotary International, but it was founded by Rotarians, people that are taking action and making a difference. HIP's mission is to catalyze societal change by inspiring Indigenous and non-Indigenous relationship building, strengthening community well-being, and this, the most important, I think, advancing the next generation of leaders. So our guest this week is Chris Snyder, who is the founding and current chairman of HIP. Welcome, Chris.
Well, thank you very much. Great to be on board here.
Yeah, it's fantastic to have you here. We have tons to talk about, so we're going to cue the opening music and get at it. Chris, you have an amazing bio and list of experiences, but I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce and share a few things with our audience about you as we get going.
Okay, thanks, Barry. And actually, I'm amazed at how similar our early lives were. I grew up in a small Ontario town, which isn't so small anymore, called Collingwood. And like you, I joined Cubs and got involved in all the paper drives, and we didn't have a bottle drive, but a paper drive, I guess, would be more or less the same, and apple selling and so on. And like you, it was just great to be do fun things with our friends and literally learn about public service in our community. And in a small town, everybody sort of works together. It's perhaps a little bit of the nature of small communities, and so I learned to volunteer. My first volunteering was actually done not in Cubs, but in at school at the age of 7, and I'm am still at it. I won't say how many more years later, but quite a few. Anyway, when I was about 14, I went away to a boarding school whose motto was service above self. So this whole theme seemed to run along. And I must say that one experience I did have in Scouts was attending the World Jamboree in
Ah,
Niagara on the Lake in 1955. And that, of course, opened the eyes to me and meeting people who'd been the teachers of scouting to Baden colleges sort of blew me away. Anyway, I went on and sort of was very active in the school, went to university, very involved, organizing things, doing things, and including doing a lot of work with international students and also some things with sporting things. I helped start the Winter Carnival and a few other things. But just at the end of the career, I guess I'd been working a little bit. I met my wife, Pat, and she was organizing a conference on Rhodesia. So that sort of dates it a little bit. Rhodesia, of course, is now Zimbabwe.
Zimbabwe, yes.
Yes, and the whole sort of volunteering thing sort of continued along the way, and I toyed along the way with going into politics, but I was still very involved in things. But instead, I set up my own business, which is a personal financial advice business, and we were one of the first in the country. And tied in with your theme of connectedness, I started in the insurance business, and one of the reasons I did that was that I could control my time and what I did. And if I wanted to do something at 3 o'clock outside of my business, I could do that. And so it allowed me to do the volunteering that I did. And so I just carried on doing it. And I think it's really part of my DNA. So
Right.
um,
We're very similar
I
that way.
joined Rotary, and a lot of that's history.
Yeah, we have a lot of similarities there. I've only been a Rotarian for 6 years, Chris, but you've been a Rotarian in Toronto for 36 years. Is that right?
Yes, it seems like everybody says it seems like yesterday, but
So
one of the
you,
things that really turned me on about Rotary, we were camping and driving with our young children in Glacier National Park,
oh
and
yeah.
I remember getting to the top at one of the passes, and I saw this plaque which was commemorating um, this park, which is a joint peace park between Rotarians from Alberta and Rotarians from Montana. And that
Mm.
just blew me away. I thought this is the most amazing thing, and it sort of ties in with your theme of people getting together and connecting. And so I came back and joined the Rotary Club of Toronto. I focused initially on, and still to a large degree, on international activities, and that took me to I don't know, 8 or 9 different countries, building schools and setting up other projects as well.
So there's lots of work and activities when you're doing community service, but to be in it for that long, like it is for me, you must enjoy it. Like you enjoy the fellowship and the work and the camaraderie of being engaged with people around the world.
Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, when I make speeches about volunteering, I ask people how many people have volunteered, and virtually everybody says yes. And I then ask the question, how many people get more out of the volunteering than the people you're volunteering for? And I'd say that's about 99%. And I've written a book called Creating Opportunities, and the opportunities are for really both people, both the people who you're working for and yourself, and the experiences I've had and the people I've met and places I've been. I mean, you couldn't get it any other way. And Rotary really gave me that opportunity. It really opened the doors. It just really gave me the opportunity, I guess, is perhaps the best way to sum it up. And that's led to a lot of Rotary things, but a lot of boards and other organizations outside of Rotary.
So I'm just going to this moved on me here. Bring up the website of HIP. And I think I can share this with people if I get yeah. So here we are, understanding the past and moving forward together. So this is something that has sort of probably emerged somewhat out of your Rotary experience. But as I mentioned, it's not an actual Rotary organization. You founded it. Can you tell us a little bit more about the partnership between, how HIP facilitates a partnership between Indigenous people and Rotary?
Yes, and actually that's a key question because it's very much a partnership, and it's and it's hard to create a true partnership. But because of all the international work that I've been doing, and a video that had been produced called Third World Canada, our club uh, was considering setting up a separate committee for working with Indigenous peoples. And because of this international experience, I was asked to chair it, and I was amazed at the tremendous enthusiasm from a number of our members and the experience that they had. So we probably met 4 or 5, 6 times. And the first question we asked was, should we be involved? And that very quickly we concluded yes. And then we said, okay, if so, how? So rather than coming down from the top and doing things exactly the wrong way, we spoke to a number of Indigenous people in the Ontario area, and they all came back with a one word answer called education.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was pretty definitive to us. These were very prominent people, including the former Lieutenant Governor James Parliament, and a lot of chiefs and Ontario chiefs and so on. So that was pretty loud and clear. But we realized that Rotary had some unique advantages to them, and one is that they were right across the country, or around the world, as you mentioned. We're in 178 or 80 countries. I don't know, a lot anyway. And in Canada, we've got 720 clubs, and every club meets every week, and every club usually has a speaker. So we thought, what better thing than to get into and develop awareness. So that was the basis we started. So purposely, in order to make it a true partnership, we set up a separate organization, a separate charitable organization. We actually had a shell organization we could work with, which I actually happened to be chair of, but was really not operating. So we just changed our mission and got approval from the government, and we had a charitable number right to start. So we set out recruiting our board, and by Constitution, 50% of our board members must be Indigenous, and the other 50% Rotarians. We do have an option of bringing in both non-Indigenous and non-Rotarians. We haven't done that. And we also made it a point of 50% of our board members are women. And that in itself, I think, sets a little bit of if not a precedent, at least it's sort of a model for across the country.
Right.
We, of course, started in Ontario, but spread across the country. And we've now got district coordinators in all but one or two of the provinces across the country. And we've got a fantastic group of Indigenous board members. And that is a very special thing about this organization. Our focus is on three things. It's on the education, on awareness, and when you think about it, it's really most important all about working with and developing relations between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people. And we came up with this before the reconciliation report, and we had come to the same conclusion they had and had something in action. So that allowed us to connect very quickly with some of the major players in the country who are working with Indigenous people. Anyway, that's just a little bit of a snapshot of the start of it. And but we've got a terrific board, and we've got right across the country from I guess Vancouver all the way to Cape Breton.
So, Chris, like people can go and check the website out. I've got it up. I've had it up there a couple of times. Please do that. The link that I've been using is rotaryhip.com. But you'll find it in Google too, if you don't remember that. Amazing organization. I really see the connection between what Rotary does worldwide of connecting people and ideas to create better outcomes, capitalizing on multiple points of view, the strength of multiple cultures, But I know how much effort it is to start a nonprofit. So as a co-founder of BC Tomorrow, we've been at it for 7 years. We too got a registered charity status, and it took us 7 years to get enough money and momentum and product and everything behind us to be able to do our official launch in the classroom. And that takes a lot of, it takes a lot, all those hours, and you have to have that conviction to keep you going. What inspired you to found this organization and then stick with it?
That's a good question. A former business partner of mine said that as a person, if I like to look for openings and fill them, and I
Ah,
guess this was one. And it came at a time when there was a lot of groundswell in the country. I think people were beginning to recognize that the history between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people from say the early to mid 1800s was very poor. It was
yeah,
abysmal, as a matter of fact, and
for sure.
I'd say most of that was because of the way they were treated. And we could all look around in our communities and and see that the Indigenous peoples didn't have a very good lot in life. And why was that? And it became evident that it was largely because of the settlers, the colonialist approach, and so on. And so this was something we could do. And there were a lot of other people that were interested in this. And so I'm used to sort of, I'm a bit of an entrepreneur and like to lead the charges. And before I knew it, we were into this, and it's still at it. I've sold my businesses now, but I still spend about four hours plus a day working on this. And
Yeah.
we do we do have an executive director and others, but that's I
Well,
don't
it's
know. This whole stuff is part of my DNA, I think.
yeah, yeah, and it's I mean, your experience and connections obviously make a difference for the organization. I see that we have 4 people joining us online, and just want to remind people who are there, if you're loving this, give us a thumbs up or a fire emoji. If you want to ask Chris a question, type it into the comments and reactions, and we'll bring it up on the screen, and we'll put Chris on the spot. But you know, it's an amazing endeavor, and I think what one of the things that I really love about it is that you're creating a legacy, and that this could be enduring. And it's been my experience as a non-Indigenous person, but being on a steep learning curve, that we haven't understood the history of Canada well, you know, through the schooling system, at least historically. I think that that is changing, but it's hard not to know. It's not hard to understand if you're not in it or know about it. And so that's why I think the education element of what you're doing with HIP is very critical. The fact that you're doing it collaboratively with Indigenous people to make sure that it's done in an appropriate way and a respectful way is also exceptionally important, rather than one person acting independently. So it's, you know, initiatives like this are going to become increasingly important. We've seen, you know, oppression become, public awareness of oppression worldwide over culture is becoming greater. And that level of awareness is what's going to lead many organizations to start or continuing working to try to improve that situation. I'm going to just skip into the Forest of Whispering Speakers element here. And then we're going to come back and talk a little bit more with Chris about where, you know, some of the things that HIP has done already and where he sees it going. So, as those of you who have been watching for a while know, I have this segment called the Forest of Whispering Speakers, and this is kind of the amazing link here between the HIP, because my favorite song, my favorite group is the Tragically Hip. My favorite poet is Gord Downie, and that inspired me to add this, I guess, right brain component to a sciencey kind of a guy. to think about what can we learn from those artists. And Gord's writings and the music of the Tragically Hip are incredibly insightful and deep. So Forest of Whispering Speakers is a line that comes out of one of the songs. For a good life you might have to weaken. And so I'm always blabbing about the hip, and then this new organization comes along called HIP, and I was like, are you kidding me? Anyway, I like to step out of the normal and into that creative zone here. And there's a song by a Canadian singer-songwriter, Bruce Cockburn, called Hills of Morning. And again, Bruce's lyrics are deep. At some points in his career, they've been kind of polarizing as he took some stands on some social issues. But in this particular song, well, first of all, he's an amazing musician, a great singer. But also, as I've dug in, he's a great writer. I'm going to just share a little bit of this song from a YouTube video that's on through the E-Town group. And let's get them ready here. And let you listen to Bruce sing this song a little bit. And then I'm going to come back and give you a little bit of an interpretation. Chris and I will probably pick up on it together. So let's listen to Bruce.
Underneath the mask of the sulfur sky, a bunch of us were busy waiting, watching the people looking ill at ease, watching the frame rope get closer to breaking. Women and men move back and forth in between effect and cause, and just beyond the range of normal sight, this glittering joker was dancing in the dragon's jaws.
So I want to talk about that piece right there just a little bit, and I'll play a little bit more of a tune. Isn't it such an amazing melody, Chris? And we have a question from Barb Penner too, which is great. We'll get to that. But put on my glasses here because I have my notes about these lyrics. Underneath the mask of the sulfur sky, a bunch of us were busy waiting. I just love the style of the writing. How can you be busy waiting? Watching the people looking ill at ease, watching the fraying rope get closer to breaking. And I often feel like that, like that's where, you know, I talk about my mission to unlock prosperity while caring for the earth, but we're locked down on so many things, and there's, you know, the world is rife with conflict and mistrust. Watching that fraying rope get closer to breaking. And it says women and men moving back and forth in between effect and cause, which is what we're all about here, cumulative effects. And just beyond the range of normal sight, it's right there, we kind of know it's there. This glittering joker was dancing in the dragon's jaws. And it sounds like a perilous place to be, to me. So the song goes on to talk about more elements, but just on that piece right there, I think it's a little bit of a warning that if we all just stand around being busy waiting for somebody else to do something and watching the joker dance in the dragon's jaws while that rope is about to break, that's not going to work out. That's not going to work out. That's the message it sends to me. We have to do something different. So in the next part, I'm just going to play the next little part, which is the chorus, 4 lines, and just listen to the words here, and then we'll finish with this segment.
Let me be a little of your breath, moving over the face of the deep.
Oh, I just want to keep it going because I just love his guitar there. But so this I think is the answer. So the first part of the song sets up what's happening and that it's not going to work. The chorus brings the solution. Let me be a little bit of your breath, moving over the face of the deep. I want to be a particle of your light, flowing over the hills of morning. And to me, this is the connection of people to the energy of the earth. And when we can align ourselves that way and understand that the environment nourishes people and people create economies and we have choices about our economies, how they bring us prosperity. They can be depleting or they can be regenerative. Of course, we want the regenerative circular approach. That's the answer. And the way to do that is to be holistic and in sync with the energy of the earth. And so to me, flowing over the hills of morning as a particle of your light is being a part of it. I love it. Amazing artist. What do you think, Chris?
Well, I think it's fabulous. As a matter of fact, music is one of the great motivators, and taking it back to the indigenous people, it was Louis Riel who said, "Our people will rise again and will be led by the artists," which of course includes musicians and poets and authors and writers. So, very powerful stuff.
Cool. Yeah, thanks. I hadn't even thought of that, but yes, there's so many. Churchill is often credited with this, but there are some. What does he say? History is littered with lessons unlearned. We just probably need to do a little bit more listening. So Barb's got a question here that I'll direct to you, Chris. Can you speak to what individuals can do, like what people can actually do towards reconciliation? I think she might have seen my show notes. I was thinking about getting to this question near the end, but it's so appropriate. So let's talk about it now.
Yeah, it depends on the individual, of course, but probably the first thing people can do is to become aware. And I will start that by saying you start that way, but becoming aware of the indigenous peoples and their ways, their background, their history, and their culture, that's going to be a lifelong activity. Every time I talk to an indigenous person, I learn something. And so that's probably where people can start. On an individual level, you can go to powwows and other ceremonies that are held out there out west. If you're a bigger organization, you can connect with the community. As a matter of fact, the vision of HIP is to connect all 720 Rotary clubs with an Indigenous community somewhere in Canada. And it doesn't have to be the one out your back door, but it is often the most logical. But certainly reading, I'll be getting into that in a minute. Go to our website, and which I guess is going to be put up on the screen a bit later. We've got a lot of material there. Take a moment and speak to an Indigenous person. I think developing relationships, and this is true on all levels. We know there's been racism in this country. There's racism in every country, and that's not a good thing. And one way of moving beyond racism is to get to know the people. So talk to them. Sometimes that's hard to do. There's huge distrust between Indigenous peoples and non-Indigenous ones. But if you know an Indigenous person, take some time and get to know them. Just talk to your neighbor. I used to encourage people to have one conversation a day with somebody about Indigenous people. I'm not sure if anybody ever took me up on it. Maybe you will, or others will too.
It's interesting too. Like we're thinking of it as non-Indigenous people and the need to reach out to Indigenous people, but it works both ways. It works both ways, and like I have so many friends and colleagues, professionals that I work with that are Indigenous. And one of the scholars that I learned from, Craig Duck Chief, who lives here in Secaucus, married into the Shuswap Nation, but he's Siksika from southern Alberta. And I took a course at college from Craig and continued to learn from him, especially as he went through and did his master's work. And he pointed out to me that it's often the same kind of disconnection feeling if you're Indigenous looking at the non-Indigenous community. And all of us need to be brave and reach out and create those connections. Otherwise, they won't happen.
And certainly, absolutely right. And Indigenous people, they want to be understood and they want to be respected, and well, they should be. They're human beings like the rest of us, and a large part of the reason some of them are perhaps a little down and out is because of the environment that they were placed in over the years. And so take every opportunity you can and get to learn, and you'll probably find an opening to connect. And of course, we're associated Bob, through HIP and or at least yes, through HIP, so we can talk some more. But for others, start and find out a little bit about Indigenous people and make a point of trying to get to talk to someone and get to know them.
Right. Well, and I think that, in my opinion, the Indigenous worldview holds many of the answers that we need in order to be able to go forward and prosper in the world. Everybody will do well to spend some time learning there. Time for some rapid fire questions here, Chris, so that we don't get too serious here. I'm going to break it up a little bit. And so I think I've told you the rules of this game. Those who watch, everybody enjoys this. It's just a quick rapid fire. Give me the answer off the cuff, one or two words. I'm being kind. I didn't ask anything. I'm not going to ask anything super dangerous, but it's lots of fun. So are you ready?
All set. We'll give it a try here.
This is what makes live so exciting. All right, Chris. Really hard question right off the hop. What's your favorite number?
7.
7. That's a popular one. Favorite day of the week?
Tuesday.
I always say today.
Okay.
Save.
That's a good answer. That's a perfect answer.
Oh, I sort of set you up there.
Popped into my head. I've never really. Okay, I'm going to change. It's today. Make the best of today.
I set you up there. That was unfair. Sorry about that.
Okay.
So you're a financial guy. Save money, spend money, or invest money?
All of the above.
All of the above.
With a plan, think it through. Money's nothing more than a means to a lifestyle, and
right.
Only you and your partners and your family can determine that.
Right. You have sat. I was looking at your bio. You've sat on a ton of boards. So not only did you found HIP and sit and lead that board, but I mean a bunch of them: Canadian Landmine Foundation, the Trudeau Centre for Peace, Conflict and Justice, the Nature Conservancy, CARE, a bunch. I just wonder if there's, is there one experience? So this isn't an evaluation of the board, but is there one experience on one of those boards that really stands out for you as being a real learning experience?
Oh boy, I mean, there are a ton of learning experiences.
Of course.
Particularly if you become the chair, you're active. Is there one in particular? I guess with the Landmine Foundation, some of that involved international work. We took a team of Rotarians and friends. I shouldn't say a team. We took 4 or 5 teams to Cambodia to build a school, and working in sort of with people who've been through a genocide and were still suffering the consequences, and a very high percentage of the people who had lost arms, legs, and so on. Now that was through the board experiences. I think non-board experiences were some of the Rotary sweat equity things, going and working, building schools in Africa and other countries. This is self-promotional, but I've written a whole book about my experiences. So, but there've been a ton of them.
Okay, well, that was so. I guess that's the benefit that comes out of that answer then, is knowing that each one of those experiences gives you something exceptionally rewarding. You like to do stuff with your family. I'm going to give you three choices. You can only choose one: biking, hiking, or canoeing.
I'd say hiking. Normally, although I've just had a hip replaced, so it's going to be a while when I'm going to be able
Ah,
to do it. But I think canoeing would be number two.
that word hip keeps coming up.
Oh, I
Uh,
know, and I was sure the Landmine Foundation article last week, so I don't know what that says, but anyway, so there it is.
all right, Chris. When I dance, this is for you. When you dance, you look like.
Do I look like a person out of control?
I always think of
Just
myself as like
intense.
those, you know, those wind socks that sell
Uh,
cannabis now. Yeah. Where were you born?
Montreal.
Do you know what
But I cheered
time?
for the Canadians until just a few years ago.
Oh, well, we won't hold that against you. I'm an Oilers fan. But there's lots of Canadians fans in Oiler country. It's just crazy. There are lots of Canadians fans everywhere. Um, I respect the Habs, but I don't like them. Do you know what time you were born?
No,
I was born at 3:30 in the morning. Are you an early bird or a night owl?
I used to be an early bird, and I'm not. I'm neither an early bird, although I'm up at 6:30. Is
Hmm.
that an early bird?
I'd say
But
so.
I don't stay up late.
Ah, yeah, so you're an
You
early
get
bird.
older, you go to bed earlier. You don't have to party and do all those other things.
Can you think of an inspirational youth that you worked with over the years?
Hmm.
You saw
Well, I
rise
worked
up
with
and
an inspirational youth. I did have exposure to, and I wouldn't say I really worked with them per se, but certainly the Kielburgers, and I think they're getting an unfair rap in all this we thing. But
oh yeah,
what they have done has been absolutely amazing.
right,
I don't like the way they've necessarily done it, but you can't help but be inspired. And there's
right.
also a young Indigenous girl from the Manitoulin Island called Autumn Peltier, who's
Yes,
done a tremendous amount of work. I haven't worked with her, but I've met her and been at ceremonies with her.
yes. Water Guardian, I believe, and she spoke at the UN.
Yes, she did.
Okay, last question. Uh, one word that we need to keep in mind as we work towards reconciliation.
One word. Understand.
Understand, yeah. Take the time to understand for sure. Um, yeah, Barb, you don't need to apologize. That was a joke. I was just nudging you there a bit with my elbow about my show notes. So, Chris, good job. I led you astray a couple of times, but I think you did really well. You survived that without any major
Okay.
wounds. All right, so we're going to move. I just want to talk for a couple of minutes about the cumulative effects of an individual can be powerful, but when we get things moving in harmony, like Rotary, like HIP, like the building community around this CFX, the connection of things show. I've seen it with our CFX conference series, the same sort of thing. Real meaningful impact and change can happen. So, I'm just what are some of the achievements that you want to highlight? Maybe just one or two, because I know there's been a lot. But let's highlight one or two achievements of HIP that are bringing a cumulative impact.
Well, I think just really the creation of HIP in the first place and the formation of our board, I think that sets a very important standard, and it also allows us to develop relationships with Indigenous peoples, and you learn that it takes a long time to do things, and the expansion of that into the district coordinators and Barb and your involvement and others, in Kelowna is a case in point. Um, but if we can get all 720 clubs involved on a common focus, that will have an enormous impact. So that's certainly one. I mean, there have been all sorts of. First of all, HIP is a movement, and we're a
Mm.
facilitator. We don't do projects per se, although we have in the past. But when you realize when you try to do something across the country, it's almost impossible to do. However, with 720 Rotary clubs out there, and it's not just Rotary, it's churches and so on, we can facilitate, we can encourage, we can connect, we can bring other resources, and that's really the strength or one of the strengths of HIP. So um, it is a cumulative effect we're trying to make, and hopefully it'll make for a better country and better understanding of not just of Rotarians, although I'm amazed at how little many, let's say, non-Indigenous people know of Indigenous people, even though there's been something in the media virtually every day for the last, I don't know, many years anyway. But they say, oh, was there a residential school? Or what's that? Or the 60s scoop? Or, oh, I didn't know that. And they've got these stereotypical images. So there's a huge way to go.
Yeah.
So even if we can understand each other, and that's going to lead to the development of relationships, and if you can do educational projects, which by education isn't just bricks and mortars and books, it's education in any sense of the word. For example, we had one the Guelph Club did a big project up in Nunavut a number of years ago, and what they did was that they changed the acoustics in the school so the children could hear. If
Mm.
you can't hear, it's a huge impediment to learning. But that's an educational project or a welcome box program to help bridge the tensions of young people coming down from the fly-in communities to a big city center and running into the racism that results. Those are just a couple, but
Yeah. There's many.
every area's got its specific concerns, and every area has to do what's important in
Mm.
that area.
You know, it strikes me that one of the cumulative effects of HIP has been the fostering of champions. So, Barb, uh, through Mario Lane here, took the message out from Ontario and brought it out to British Columbia. It ended up connecting with me through my Rotary Club. And here we are today, streaming live on YouTube and talking about it and sharing it with the world. So, and then people are going to come along and they're going to see this, they're going to find out about it, and they're going to get involved. So, I mean, you can see in impact assessment terminology that, we call that a sort of an impact hypothesis pathway. And it's clear where those effects can absolutely go. I think what I want to do is just switch over now to the CFX library and talk about a reference. So every week, one of our guests, this popped into my head, Chris, a takeaway to-do item for you, I think, that this would be great is, why don't we arrange a follow-up show sometime in the coming months where we bring in some of the Indigenous members of the HIP board. And we could do a panel. We could have 2 or 3 of us all on here together talking about it, and get a little bit different perspective, and maybe even bring some youth in that you've been working with. So that would be exciting and fun. I'm going to put that on your to-do list. But let's go to the CFX library. Where's my little ribbon here? I can't find it. I have so much tech going here, Chris, I can't even believe it. So CFX Library is a segment that I ask guests every week to share a reference that people who are interested in the topic might want to follow up on. And of course, all the time we have like many, and they can be books, websites, whatever. So I asked you, and this is the one that you came up with to share today, The Inconvenient Indian. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, it's really the book that I feel it's more of a starter book. That doesn't mean to say it's basic. Well, it is basic because it deals with a lot of the basic issues and a lot of the the stereotypes and so on. And it's written by Thomas King, who's a very, very well-known writer. He's actually an American, a Native American, and but he now lives in Ontario, and he's written a lot of books. He's won all sorts of awards and so on. But basically, the Inconvenient Indian, when you think about it, the title comes from Indigenous people were getting in the way of settlers going out, let's say, as they spread westerly across the country, and actually a way too, coming from the west, going a little bit east. And but he explains some of the treaties and the myths that are involved, some of the other stereotypical things that happen, what can be done, what Indigenous people really want, and it's a very good book to deal with with, I guess, some of those basic issues. I'd also refer people to the HIP website, because we've got a whole list of books and videos and podcasts on that. And they're Indigenous people, getting back to Riel's statement about the artists, there are some outstanding Indigenous artists, or at least writers in this country. Richard Wallace has written some wonderful books, and Tanya Talega has written a couple of books recently, and but there are many, many more. So go to our website, and Inconvenient Indian is certainly a good place to start.
Yeah, so I just brought this up, your reading list on the website. There's got to be 100 books there and references. So phenomenal contribution to the CFX library there, Chris. Thanks. Usually I only get one or two. Thanks for 100.
Well, I can tell you I haven't read them all, but I've probably read 30 or 40. And I always have one or two on the go, and I'm continually learning.
So I'll have those links in the show notes for people who want to follow up, or if you, for whatever reason, you forget and you come back to the show, you can find your way back to there. You can sign up as an ally through the HIP organization. I have done that. And that will keep you connected with HIP. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of our show segment here, but as I mentioned, I look forward to having a follow-up panel discussion with some more people. And let's make sure that we have some young future leaders that have been working with that. I also want to just give a specific and big shout out to Sarika. Sarika Mills is our assistant producer, and she just recently joined the team, and she's really helping me with getting this show going. For those of you who have watched me struggle through the origins of the show, you can tell that it's getting a lot better, and I really want to thank you, Sarika, for doing that. You can check her out. She also has her own social media platforms. But she's really helping us deliver a better product and inspiring me to make sure that we deliver really good, strong content that everybody's interested in. I also want to thank Barb for engaging directly with us using the comments and reactions. We got a few thumbs up. Our community is growing. I would ask people to do two things. First of all, go to the HIP and become an ally. Sign up there. It's free. And also subscribe to this program. If you've made it this far in the program, I know you're loving it. That helps out a lot. But also, we were talking about awareness. And one of the cumulative effects of YouTube and the internet is our ability to extend our reach. And we know that there's lots of other people out there that want to hear about connection and cumulative effects and understanding how we can create a positive future. Share this show. Just go to YouTube and hit share and send it to somebody that you know is going to be interested. That's how we build a community. I can't do it myself. Chris can't do it himself. We need to have teams, right, Chris? And we need to have lots of people. You said it was a movement.
Yeah, that's a movement for sure.
Yeah. Oh, and Barb says follow HIP on Facebook too. So, yeah, fantastic. And I want to share something that's really funny. First of all, thanks, Chris, for taking action all your life, really being a true leader, inspirational, I know you've got a lot of sweat equity into this and a lot of other initiatives. You're taking action, you're sharing, and you're helping all of us. And I just want to say thank you so much for that. And I want to share something funny with you guys because this is funny. We were talking about show notes. So these are my show notes. Oops. This is what it looks like. And it's just, I have these little highlighted pieces, right? So here's the highlighted piece for the end here. Ha ha ha. Don't forget to turn the furnace back on. It's winter in Canada. I turned the furnace off because it's near the office and I don't want that hum going through the microphone. Last week, I didn't turn the furnace back on. And Saturday morning, Karen and I are going, why is it so cold in the house? So, anyways, it's so bad that I'm so forgetful, I have to put a note in the show notes for myself to remember to turn the heat back on. But what the heck, eh? You can't remember everything.
Yeah.
I bet you didn't have to turn your heat off so that it wouldn't bother your microphone.
That I didn't do.
Okay, well, I'm aspiring to get a nice quiet sound space like you have. All right, thanks everybody. It's been a really fun show. And next week we have an amazing guest. I'm not going to reveal his name just yet, but he's from Colorado, and we're going to be talking about things like brain health and its connection to community, your food, water. You don't want to miss out on that. It's going to be a really cool, interesting show. All right, so till then, see you later, Chris. I'll see you online. And thanks everybody for joining us.